right, so we're going to go into level 2. So these are set up with different activities that are all focused on case practice. And we're going to do today activity 7. We're going to start with market sizing. Different activities, they're organized based on complexity. And that has to do with the challenge of those problems in your learning progression. For today, I'm gonna have us go into the low problems. All right, so the first problem, the scenario is this. Tex is a grocery company. They're operating out of the Western United States. And the client that we're working with is the division head for the beverage division. In the beverage division, they have carbonated beverages, which are soda, non-carbonated beverages, and water. So big picture, Tex is having some challenges. Revenue has dropped over the last 3 years, and it's specifically in the carbonated beverage area. You are brought in to recommend how to improve the performance in this area. In order to do that, we're going to do some analysis, but for our focus here, we are going to estimate the market size for lemonade in California. And what would be the number of glasses per year that are consumed in California? Okay. And then just for reference up at the top, there's a little bit of a guide in maybe how to go about this. I'm going to give you all, again, about 3 minutes to work through that and see what you come up with. All right, so let's estimate glasses of lemonade consumed in 1 year in California. All right, everybody go ahead. All right, so what I want to have you all do now is compare your work to the proposed solution. And remember, please, that many times when you're seeing solutions, quote, solutions, it's one of many approaches. The key is to look for things that are material, okay? And then to identify significant gaps between your work and kind of the way it's framed. And are you in the right general area? Okay, that's kind of the philosophy with market sizing. Okay. So let's just take a minute, have you guys think about this. And then I'd love to have somebody kind of walk us through your approach, and then, you know, we can talk a little bit about varying things that you guys thought about for a couple minutes. Okay. And let's talk about lemonade in California. Go ahead, Jacqueline, please. Thank you.
Okay, so I had to really guess the population of California, but the way I did that was considering 330 million people in the US, and I just estimated 30 for California, just a little bit under 10%, and I just thought that they considered 40. Then I thought about those 30 million people in California, how many glasses they would drink a day of anything. And I thought 3 glasses per day. And I divided that into soda, non-carbonated, and water. And I put 60% of that would be water, 20% soda, and 20% non-carbonated.
Great.
So that gave me so, so 30 million people, 3 glasses a day. I got 90 million glasses a day, and so 20% of that being non-carbonated. and I got 1/6 of that being lemonade just to get math um, nice and clean because that gave me 1/30th of 90 million. It's hard to talk through math.
It
Um,
is.
anyway, I reached 3 million glasses of lemonade a day, and I multiplied that for 360 days a year, and I got around 1 billion glasses.
Great. So we actually got very close to the number that's here.
I did, yes.
Nice. Excellent. Excellent. So a couple of things that Jacqueline spoke to, and then if others have a different way you approach this or a different way you thought about it, I want to hear about it. So just the population of California, some of you may know that because you've lived in California. Some of you that may be not off the top of your head. The way that Jacqueline approached that was very nice, right? Just a rough estimate, okay? Um, there's some other tricks about learning populations. In our digital casebook, we actually have a factoid activity for you that you can reference. And one of the that's called a factoid. One of the elements is populations and how to do that. So if that's something that you find over time is a little bit challenging for you, there's some reference, okay? And then trying to navigate from that population down, I think the way that you explained it, Jacqueline, is good. You're trying to break down into buckets. And so the structure of a market sizing is also that term MECE, MECE, mutually exclusive, comprehensively exhaustive. You're trying to break the comprehensive population, into different groups that don't overlap. Okay. Maybe the one recommendation I would make is break the groups down before you put the frequency of the drinking. That sounds terrible, frequency of drinking, but it just helps, I think, understand the population first and then the behavior second. Okay. Ben, I wanted to also, you offered to share your approach. Would you mind also maybe sharing how you thought about this that maybe was a little bit different, please?
Yeah, thanks. And to be clear up front, I was wrong. I guessed 20 million because I noticed at the end of the question it said, guess what is closest to your estimation. Um,
Mhm.
so to walk through, I said I just knew, luckily, I guess, that the California population of California is about an eighth of the US population. And then I recalled from management consulting group, they told us that it's often helpful to use just 320 million as the US population in
Yeah,
calculations. I'm not sure if that's what your book suggests. So
yeah,
then I estimated 40 million there. And then looking at the second bucket of logical assumptions, I did the same thing. I just thought, kind of to my personal experience, like, seems like most people that I know like lemonade, but I know a fair amount that don't. So let's just call it 50-50 and get 20 million lemonade drinkers. So I followed along there. But then I guess where I went kind of in a different direction from the solution was, to me, lemonade seems like a summer drink. And so
mm,
I was just trying to make an assumption about that. I know that California has fair weather, but it still seemed like it might apply. So I said 3 months of summer, 1 glass a week. That's 12 glasses per lemonade drinker. So 240 million glasses. And then obviously 20 is way lower than that, but I just decided to choose the one that was closest. So that's why I
yeah,
chose 20 million.
yeah. So a couple things. So one, here's what's valuable, right? Jacqueline thinking about it one way, Ben thinking about it another way. This is why we practice together, because both of those approaches have points of goodness in them, and then you get a chance to learn from each other. So that's a really important thing. Ben, your second point about the population of the US. I think you use numbers that work easy. Sometimes we use 300 million, sometimes we use 320, sometimes we use 330. I mean, use every time you all are doing market sizing, use a number that makes your math the easiest, right? And so if you already have in your head that the population of California is 1/8 of the US, then you use 320 because it can be divided by 8 easily, okay? So that's one of the things that is common practice in market sizing and in a lot of the case math. There's some things you need precise, but some, when you get to define your math, make it easy, okay? So that was very, very good. And Jacqueline's approach worked too, okay? The second thing that you talked about was when you got down to that frequency. So I think that has some strong thinking as well because you're incorporating seasonality and you're showing some behavioral understanding. Okay. Now, I personally might debate with you. I mean, we're in Chicago right now. Our lemonade season is probably more contrived, right? Or constricted. In California, the weather is different. And so the idea might be there, and that's the right way to think about it, but then you just have to put it into context because and then your interviewer, by the way, may come back to you and say, all right, Ben, so why do you really think that California has a limited season for lemonade drinking, right? And they're just going to ask you for your rationale, okay? But that approach is really good because you're thinking about the problem in context, okay? So all of that is good. The final step that I want you guys to always think about when you're doing a market sizing is, where are you wrong? You are wrong. You're always going to be wrong on market sizing because there's a whole bunch of assumptions that you're making. There's no precise answer. The best part, and the people who really excel at market sizing, you understand where your assumptions are weakest. And you may get that question from an interviewer, by the way. Hey, if you're to go through that, Jacqueline, Ben, where do you think your assumption is least strong that would have an impact on the market size? And then you would answer that question and you would answer it with confidence because you would say, hey, when I was putting this together, the thing that, I had the least amount of certainty about that I'd want to research further would be this. And if you can consistently do that well, that's going to show a lot to an interviewer.